Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another video here on Three and Outs. Got a fun one today. We're kind of getting closer to the season, and I'm starting to get the itch, the college football itch. I know you guys are as well. Noah, I see it grinning. How you feeling
Oh
today?
yeah, feeling good. Excited to be back after some time off last week. Got a good stream in last week with Mr. Nash. So if you ever have some free time, it's kind of intermittent when we choose to stream. But if you ever see us live, feel free to stop by. But I'm feeling good, excited for this video. So
Absolutely. I hope to join one of those live streams as well, if time permits. Brandon, how you feeling?
Feeling good. Glad to be back. I feel like it's been a while. I guess it has been a while. But love doing this. Still a very long way to go for college football. I don't like thinking about it. So here we are again filling the void. Gotta love it.
It's been a few weeks, honestly. I was out of town for a while out in Cali. My body is adjusting to East Coast time again, but we're back. And what better way to come back than with a 2023 SEC win totals prediction video? We've got all 14 SEC teams lined up right here, from least projected win total to most projected win total. We're going to start at the bottom, go to the top, and we're just going to get right into it. We're going to say whether they're going to go over or under, and we're going to compare. We're going to compare at the end of the 2023 season and see how far off we were. I'm down to do that. It'll be fun. But yeah, let's just dive in. Let's dive in. Start at the bottom. We got the Vanderbilt Commodores, Vandy. This is the bottom feeder of the SEC, and it's been that way forever, for as long as I've been alive. Their projected win total is 3.5 wins, and that's really low. But then you go look at their schedule, and it's like, oh, that might be high. I'll toss it over to you, Noah. How do you feel about this Vandy schedule? It's kind of brutal in terms of SEC.
in terms of SEC, yeah, I wouldn't say the East schedule is very strong. I think their non-conference is very favorable outside of Wake Forest in week 2. I think seeing 3.5. Now, granted, don't get mad if you don't like these projected win totals. I think these are from On3 Sports, I believe, on Twitter. I'm not sure what sports book they got this from, but anyway, I think Vanderbilt's gonna be sneaky. I think they're gonna be okay. So I think they're gonna have 4 wins. I could see them beating Alabama A&M, UNLV, Missouri, and then
Hawaii. They beat Hawaii,
do they
right?
play Hawaii?
They open versus Hawaii, then they go Alabama,
Do they?
A&M. Yep,
Oh,
at Wake,
oh
and then
yeah,
at
Hawaii.
UNLV.
Yeah, I don't see that on the schedule that I'm looking
Oh,
at.
I'm
But
using
yeah.
FBS.
Oh, okay. FBA. Okay. I didn't know that. Oh, they have 2 open dates. That's why. They play
Mm,
week 0. Okay.
mm.
Yeah, then those are the 4 wins that I foresee.
Okay. I mean, I definitely have them at 3. They're winning the Hawaii, Alabama, A&M, UNLV. And honestly, Vandy always pulls an upset. Okay, they will win an SEC East game. Like
They
you said,
will.
they could knock off Florida, they could knock off Mizzou, they could knock off Kentucky, they could even go to Wake Forest. That team might be in shambles this year. I give them 4 wins as well, so I'm going over. Sounds like you're going over, Noah. Brandon, how do you feel?
I've got the over here. Like y'all said, I mean, Hawaii, Alabama, A&M, UNLV, there's 3 right there. And they're not going to go winless in the SEC this year. They're going to knock somebody off. I could see them going into the swamp and knocking Florida off. Honestly, I can
Yes.
see, I can see that. I mean, Auburn. I think we'll get to Auburn later, but I think Auburn's going to stink. They could beat Auburn. Who knows? They're not going to go winless in the SEC. So I have them over 3.5.
Book it. I can't wait to clip that and put it on TikTok. I cannot. That's why I got so excited. I was like, that's just the moment everyone's gonna come. Oh
Yeah,
man.
they're going to come
They're like
pouring in all the
Vanderbilt.
fans.
Oh
Hey,
yeah.
man, don't be mad at me. We'll see what happens.
That's great. That's great. But yeah, Vandy, they're getting 4 wins. So go ahead and write them in over. So we put the number we have them at or no?
Are we deciding on
Let's just
4?
put over.
We'll just
Let's
put over and we can speculate on that later.
Yeah, sounds good. Moving on though, we've got the Florida Gators second on this projected win totals list right here, which is just awful by their standards. This book or whatever has them at 5.5, and if you pull up their schedule, I'll be honest, it's a pretty rough one because of the current state of their program. They open at Utah. That's a revenge game for the Utes, I'm pretty sure. They obviously play Tennessee, they go to Kentucky, they play Georgia, they go to LSU, they play Florida State, who's going to be great this year. They got Arkansas from the West. They go to South Carolina. I'm just reading it kind of out of order here, but I don't know. The most I see them having is 6, the most wins. So that's a solid line. Brandon, how do you feel about the Gators this year?
I think I might have to go under. And I think this is an interesting topic of conversation because me and Noah were talking about this the other day about potentially. I think Noah's on the same train of thought. I think they honestly fired Dan Mullen too early. I really don't think Billy Napier's that guy. I could be proven wrong here, but thus far he hasn't really shown anything. As much as I didn't like Dan Mullen, I think he was a great offensive mind. I think, obviously what he did with Kyle Trask, I don't know how many passing yards he had that year, but, to take him and turn him into that kind of player, I'll give him his props are due. I think they got rid of him too early. I think they're trying to emulate kind of like that instant success that Georgia had with Kirby Smart and some other programs. So I can see them going under that projected. But I agree with you. I think 6 is probably their ceiling there. Probably a pretty accurate line, but I would err on the side of under for Florida.
Noah, how you feel about the Gators, baby?
I think I agree. Yeah. I think this is the year where people finally start to see that Dan Mullen is a better X's and O's coach than Billy Napier. Honestly, looking at their schedule, I see that is 5 guaranteed losses. They play Florida State at LSU, Georgia and Jacksonville, Tennessee, and then at Utah in week 1. That is absolutely brutal.
That's tough.
And I think you can kind of pencil them in for any other loss, any other SEC loss, any given week. They go to Kentucky, they go to South Carolina. You never know what Spencer Rattler's going to be in year 2 in Columbia. So I think I would say Florida would win about 4 or 5 games if I had to guess. You don't really know. Graham Mertz did nothing to separate himself from the other guys in that quarterback room this offseason. So I'm not very confident in the immediate future of this program. So I'll go under.
Yeah. I remember directly after their spring game, there was like a presser. And I remember seeing like a clip where Billy Napier was like, yeah, they're talking about quarterbacks. And it's like, yeah, we're going to still look in the portal or something like that directly after the spring game. Because I don't know if anybody remembers the score of the spring game, but off the top of my head, I think it was like 10-7. It was pitiful.
Yeah.
So
I think that's right.
We'll see. Their program is not in a very good state at the moment.
Shambles, one might say. I think I have them at 6-6 just because I think they have one upset every year, like versus a Tennessee type of team in the swamp or say an Arkansas in the swamp. But I will definitely be comfortable saying under because they could. I mean, shoot, they're going to lose to Florida State, they're going to lose to LSU, they're going to lose to Georgia, they're going to lose to Utah. They go to Kentucky, South Carolina. Say they split that. That's 7-5 at best, and then yeah, I'm fine with going under. I do think that they'll probably go 6-6, but 5-7 it's very believable with their schedule. So yeah, that's all she wrote for the Gators. Moving on, we've got another team in shambles in the SEC, but they've got a new head coach now who has some controversy. He's coached in the SEC before. We're talking about the Auburn Tigers. Hugh Freeze, baby. Look, their schedule is interesting here. Like they got the Georgia and Alabama. That's 2 guaranteed losses, right? Every year, pretty much. So the best they could go is 10-2. Then you look who they go to. They go to Death Valley. They're going to lose that game. They go to Arkansas. That's a losable game. But I mean, they're non-conference. They got UMass, Samford at home, New Mexico State. That's 3 wins. I think they go to California and win. That's 4 wins. 6.5 is the projected win total. I mean, there's a world where they go 7-5. There's a world where they go 8-4. We just don't know what we're getting. I'm tossing it over to you, Brandon. How do you feel?
This is a tough one because I don't know. I kind of low-key forgot about the whole Hugh Freeze situation for a second. Obviously, some skeletons in the closet there. I don't think he's ever been a terrible head coach per se. Just don't really know how that's going to pan out for the program. Who's the quarterback for Auburn?
Robbie Ashford.
What do you know?
I think they got a transfer as well, but I don't know who.
Yeah, I think Robbie Ashford right now is the QB1, but still pretty early. I remember he actually showed some flashes during that Alabama game last year when I bet on them to cover the spread.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
Hugh
mean,
Freeze can be the guy to develop him.
Yeah.
I think 6.5 is a pretty good line for some of these middling teams in the SEC right now. I mean, looking at their schedule, like I was saying, they have a few guaranteed wins, in UMass, Cal, Samford, they play. There's 3 right there. They should beat Vanderbilt. They play New Mexico State.
Yeah, that's already 5 right there. And I see him splitting Ole Miss and Miss State, call that 6. They always win again. I mean, they go to Arkansas, they can win. I have them at 7-5. I think they go over personally.
I can see it. What do you think, Noah?
I like that. I think yeah, the non-conference schedule is very weak. I mean, that's 4 pretty much automatic wins. They go to Vanderbilt. That's another win. And then looking at the remaining 7 games, you just have to win 2 of the next 7, essentially.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
And in the SEC, there's so much variability. Like A&M, we don't know what A&M is going to be yet. So it's very winnable. They got Miss State at home, Bama at home. That game is always kind of a toss-up.
Yeah,
So,
doesn't matter how bad either team is.
Yeah,
exactly.
You really never know.
No matter how bad they've been historically, there's some weird vibes in Jordan Hare. Weird things have happened.
So I'll go over.
I think
bowl eligibility.
Yeah.
See you in the Liberty Bowl.
Realistically, it's probably they're going 6-6 or 7-5, so that's a good line.
Yeah,
and that seems to be the case for a lot of these teams. So we'll talk about actually. We've got I'm looking up the column here. We've got some interesting ones to get to in a second, but
we do.
Staying in the SEC West, we've got the other Bulldogs, Mississippi State. Their projected win total 6.5. Look, this is an unpredictable team. They can air it out. We know that. I'm looking at their schedule right now. Really favorable non-conference schedule, like 4 automatic wins.
Who was that first team they're playing, by the way?
Southeastern Louisiana.
I've never seen that team or that logo in my entire life.
So here's the thing with the schedule. Ready? That's a win. Arizona at home. That's a win.
Oh, Arizona stinks.
Western Michigan at home later in the season, win, and Southern Miss later at home, win. That's 4 wins. And they have a lot of their big games at home. LSU, Alabama, Kentucky's at home. Ole Miss is at home. I mean, I see maybe 8 wins on the schedule. Is that crazy?
It's not.
It's crazy. It's not
the
crazy.
Wild West. I mean, I'm looking at their schedule. I mean, I will push back on the non-conference. Is that Southern Miss?
Yeah, late in the season.
Yeah. Frank Gore Jr. goes Southern Miss.
Okay.
So you never know. They could get that run game going. But just from my memory of Georgia playing on the road, it was a tough matchup.
It was.
I mean, granted, different head coach now. God rest his soul. R.I.P. Mike Leach. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think they're definitely a tough roster, and anything can happen in that SEC West. So I could definitely see them winning 8-9 games.
I think it helps that they got the Egg Bowl at home to end the season. They host Bama. You never know. They host LSU. That's a close one historically. I mean, they go to A&M. That's a tough place, but I don't know. Just the placement of these games, like I have a good feeling about them snagging 7 or 8 wins. Even if they get 7, that's over 6.5. So I think we're going over with this, right, boys?
I like the over here.
Yeah,
I like it.
Got you.
At South Carolina between LSU and Alabama, that's crazy. That is a trap.
That might actually be a good one.
That's
I don't think. I mean, we'll get into it, but I don't think South Carolina is going to be that bad.
We'll get to them soon.
Yeah, we will.
I have some words. In fact, I'm kind of baffled by Missouri's win total being this high. 6.5 for the Missouri Tigers. I got to take a glance real quick before I make a outright claim here. I'm looking. Okay.
Oh.
They're out of conference pretty weak, but I don't know. They have some tough SEC West opponents. I don't know. 6.5. How do you feel, Noah?
I genuinely think they're going to be 2-2 going into their SEC slate. They're going to lose to at least 2 of Middle Tennessee, Kansas State, and Memphis.
They're losing to K-State.
Yeah, they're losing to K-State. That's a lock. That's a lock. I will put money on that. Middle Tennessee beat Miami last year. Granted, Miami wasn't a very good team. Neither is Missouri. Like, I think people are choosing Missouri to be their SEC East dark horse. I personally don't see it.
Trash.
I just don't think they got some good athletes on offense, but I don't really think they have the quarterback to get it done. That kid, is it Cook, Brady
Is he
Cook?
gone? I thought he was like 10 years
I
in
I
college.
have no idea, but I genuinely don't see them going very far, and their SEC schedule doesn't really get any better. They go to Athens right after they play Georgia. They play Tennessee at home, and then they host Florida the very next week.
And
So
then they go to Arkansas.
Yep.
yeah, and they
Tough.
host LSU earlier in the season. It's no cakewalk, that's for sure. I think they win like 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
I think
I
6.5 is a bit high. Like you said, Noah. And I mean, Memphis is, correct me if I'm wrong, Memphis isn't a terrible football team either.
They're not. They're
No.
respectable.
I can see them splitting Memphis, K-State, Middle Tennessee, and South Dakota. I mean, I guess South Dakota is probably a lock, right? But out of Middle Tennessee, K-State, and Memphis, there's at least one loss in there and Kansas State, and
This game is
their SEC
also
slate is not super favorable.
the Memphis game is being played in St. Louis. So
Yeah,
that's a
St.
neutral
Louis.
site as well.
Yep. So say they go 2-2. So say at best, actually, they go 3-1 through their first 4, and they beat Vandy. They're 4-1. They got LSU at Kentucky, South Carolina at Georgia, Tennessee, Florida at Arkansas. Their ceiling is 6, and that's being nice. I think they're under.
Yeah.
That's a pretty easy under for me there.
Yeah, under for sure. Speaking of teams in the SEC East, though, that have a lot of hype usually, I don't hear much for Kentucky this year. It's because their Lord and Savior went to the NFL. They are going, I mean, but they do have Devin Leary, I have to remember. So I was about to make an outrageous claim there. They have Devin Leary. He's a very talented kid. They have historically, Kentucky, the easiest opening 3 weeks I've ever seen. Like they play Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, bang, 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 at Vandy. They're going 4-0 to start.
Yep, 4-0.
Yeah.
Then they host Florida. They could go 5-0. They could be 5-0 coming to Athens.
College game day if they
Yes,
the cards right.
they could.
Another
God, that back half is fucking brutal, dude. Look at the back half.
You look
Oh
at the
my
back half.
God.
It's at Georgia, Mizzou at home, by Tennessee at home, at Miss State, Alabama at home, at South Carolina, at Louisville. They lose, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those games. They're probably losing 5 of them.
That's a slaughter. That back half. Oh
That's
my
tough.
gosh. I like Kentucky this year too with Devin Leary at quarterback. I think that secondary is going to be much improved.
Mhm.
But oh god, that schedule, especially like especially after the bye, it's Tennessee at Miss State, Bama at South Carolina at your rival Louisville. Oh, that I think
stretch there.
it's within reason to say they lose their last 5 games. It's very much within reason.
I will say Louisville was bad last year. I had money on them once, and they got destroyed.
It's
by
a
somebody.
rivalry. It's a
It is.
rivalry.
It's on the road. I think Kentucky slaughtered them this past year, I want to say. I will give Kentucky that win. I think they
Yeah.
lose 4 straight. Tennessee at Miss State, Alabama at South Carolina. That's 4. So say they beat Louisville. They have to start out 5. They have to beat Florida in Athens, in Lexington to hit the over here. They have to.
I could see it.
Yeah.
And I think they will.
Yeah.
I have them at 7, but maybe 6. That's tough. I have them at 7,
Good
but
line.
it's close.
Good
Really
line.
good
That's
line.
a very good line.
Yeah, Brandon, what do you have them at? Over or under 6.5?
I think I like over. I
Okay.
mean, I think they, like you said, they open up pretty easy. The back half is tough, obviously, but I think they find a way to beat, Florida. Or if not, I think they could, go 1-1. Maybe pull one out at Miss State or South Carolina. So I don't know. I think they get that win somewhere. I think they pick it up somewhere. I think they
agree.
7.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm in the minority here. You can go ahead and put over. I'm in the minority here, but I just think from the Georgia game on, there is a very solid chance that their season just goes downhill. Because like at Georgia, and then you play Missouri. I mean, if you get demoralized in Athens, that messes some teams up. So you could slip up at home against Missouri.
Yeah.
And then that back half, those last 5 games, like I said, are just brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have a fair point. I mean, in these couple seasons past, there has been a little bit of a tendency for teams who get, beat by Georgia to fall apart a little bit. So I could see that happening. Like I said, I think it's a good line. Obviously,
It's a good line. Yeah.
I like it. Good discussion. Keep it in the East. I mean, this is the last 6.5 of the video, but we've got the South Carolina Gamecocks, who had a pretty historic run at the end of their last season. Fell a little short in their bowl game, I believe, versus Notre Dame, but still they knocked off Tennessee and Clemson, which is real impressive. 6.5 is the projected win total. And I'm looking at their schedule. This is interesting. They have to play Clemson every year, which is not an easy draw. I don't know. They got some tough ones here, boys. I'll name
They
some
do.
big ones before we get into their scrubs. They end the season at home versus Clemson. They go to Kyle Field. They go to Tennessee. They go to Georgia. They open in Charlotte versus North Carolina with Drake May.
That's a fun one.
That
I'm
is
excited.
I'm
It's a fun
looking
one,
forward
man.
to that one. That's fun. That's a lot of
Look, they play Furman. They play Jacksonville State, Vandy. I'll give them Kentucky at home. That's 4 wins. I think they beat Missouri. That's 5 wins. Miss State at home. I think they could win that, but I don't know. Kentucky, they could win 7. But I don't know. How do you guys feel? Clemson's up in the air for me. That's the one that I'm like,
Really?
could they? Yeah, like could they
Klubnik,
beat
right?
Clemson?
Yeah, it's Club.
Klubnik.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Klubnik's going to be a better quarterback than DJ was last year.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that
100%.
by the Carolina game last year, I think they were pretty much splitting snaps. I just look at UNC in week 1. We don't know what Drake May is going to be in his sophomore year. His sophomore, not true sophomore, redshirt sophomore maybe.
Yeah,
Because I know
Sophomore.
he's draft eligible after this year, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So I think this week one will largely determine how their year goes. I think if they lose to UNC and Charlotte, I think, yeah, obviously Furman is Furman. But after that, it's kind of, 2 of your next 3 on the road against tough competition. I could see them bouncing back in that second half. It's not impossible. I think I like over for South Carolina. I'll have them at like 7 or 8, maybe 9.
Yeah, if they pull off an upset, which they've known to do. I mean, they've done it multiple seasons. I like him at 7 or 8 wins, so I'd go over here as
Yeah.
well.
I agree. I like
It's
the over.
all about the quarterback.
Uh-huh. Let's see. I mean, just a real quick recap. If they say they lose to North Carolina, they still beat Furman, Miss State at home. They could beat Florida at home, Jacksonville State, Vandy, Kentucky. Clemson's a winnable football game. Missouri on the road. I mean, there's opportunities for them to get over 6.5 wins. So, yeah, I definitely could see it. Moving on, we have a team, perhaps with the coach who's on the hottest seat, Jimbo Fisher and the Texas A&M Aggies. 7.5 projected win total. Look, their fans should be happy if they get 7 wins compared to last year, right? They'd be in a bowl. That'd be cool. They have, let's see what their toughs. They have a pretty favorable schedule, I guess you could say.
They open up pretty easy. Those first 3 are wins, unless Miami turns it around, I think. Right?
They should honestly, if this always happens, they should be undefeated
Always.
going into the Alabama game. They should be. They'll
They have a
probably
chance.
fall off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go. New
I
Mexico.
think they could drop. Honestly, like I think they might drop one of Auburn or Arkansas.
They can't. Isn't it Arkansas? That's always a struggle for both those teams. That's always kind of a
that's
shit
in
show.
Dallas.
Arkansas is a neutral site. That's in Jerry World.
Yeah.
Yep. It is every year.
Mhm.
Who knows? But they host Bama. If they're undefeated going into that game and they lose that game, they go to Tennessee the next week. They have a bye. They play South Carolina at Ole Miss and Miss State. It's a brutal stretch of SEC games right there.
I think I'm going under.
I am too. I think I have them at 7-5.
Because like I'm looking at it, I'm like at LSU loss, at Ole Miss loss. I think South Carolina is going to be pretty decent. At home though,
struggle.
Loss. At Tennessee, the loss
easily. At Tennessee's a loss.
They're losing to Tennessee.
Bama. I mean, they played Bama pretty tight the past 2 years. You never know. I think you're right, Brandon. They do slip up. One of the 2, Auburn and Arkansas, and I think Miami might catch them.
Ooh.
Yeah.
If that
anywhere
happens,
from 6 to 7.
If they go under this projected total, do you think Jimbo is out, or do you think he has another year?
I mean,
still too big. Still too big.
That's fair. I just
wonder at what point
it gets to that those boosters, because I know with all the NIL deals, they got some money in those boosters. I wonder what it's going to take for them to fundraise a little bit.
Yeah.
I like this line a lot. I will say 7, and I think they go 7-5. You're right. I mean, they lose to LSU, they lose to Ole Miss, they lose to Tennessee, they lose to Alabama. They're at 8-4 then, and they split they just lose one more game. That's 7-5. I think that's what they're going to end up doing.
If they fire him before January 1st, 2024, the buyout is still $86 million.
Okay.
He signed a 10-year contract.
That
Man,
was
talk about a bad contract. At least so far.
horrid.
At least so far.
Yeah.
But
Brutal.
we'll go
Sounds
under.
like we're all agreed on under.
I believe so.
7-5 seems right for them this year. We'll have to come back to this video for reference when we do our full-on predictions, by the way.
Yeah.
To see what we were thinking. But moving on, staying in the SC West, the West is a toss-up a lot of the times. We got Arkansas, 7.5 projected win total. Look, they have so many make-or-break games on the schedule. I look at it, and I think they should start 3-0. Western Carolina at home, Kent State at home, BYU at home. Those are all winnable football games. Then they go to LSU. I think they lose that. Call them 3-1.
Yeah.
They got the neutral game in A&M. That will make or break their season. That always is how, for both teams, that's how it always goes. After that, I mean, you go to Ole Miss, you go to Bama, you go to Florida, you host Auburn. Tough games.
Yeah.
Who's their guy? Is it still KJ Jefferson? Or
I
no?
think KJ is coming back for his 10th year of
KJ.
eligibility. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't leave.
Okay.
Who's the running back? Is it still Raheem Sanders? I'm pretty sure it is.
They have
They're
the
returning
talent.
a lot of guys. Yeah.
They have the talent to win big games. They just need to execute.
Yeah. They let me down on a lot of gambling last season, I will say.
Look,
I was
on
the big
paper-
proponent.
On
But
paper, they should have won 9-10 games last year. Like I think Arkansas
they could've.
was yeah, they were a lot worse than people gave them credit for, I think.
Mhm.
That being said, I mean the schedule, especially out of conference, I mean it's pretty favorable. I mean that's what 4 wins already.
Let's look at their
BYU
losses. It's easy to look at their
BYU's
losses. Ready?
Yeah, that's true.
They're losing to Bama and Ole Miss, I think, back to back, both on the road. I think they lose those games. They're losing to LSU on the road. I also think they will lose in the Swamp. It's a tough environment. That's 4
Sure.
losses. So they would have to win the rest of their games. So do we see them
That's the
beating
week
Western
after
Carolina?
Georgia, Florida too.
Yeah. They'll be demoralized, the Gators, so you never know. Man, this is
toss up because I think they could. I mean, I don't know. Like Arkansas in the past has kind of slipped up. Like looking at Auburn and Missouri, they could drop one of those. I mean, I guess they're both at home, so it's favorable. But good line. Again, I think it's a good
Very
line.
good line. I think judging off of the Arkansas we've seen the past 2 years, obviously they had all that momentum in 2021 until they went into Sanford Stadium. They were undefeated going into that game. Ever since, it's been kind of, you can't really rely on Arkansas. Until they prove it, I don't think they're going to pass 7.5. I think I got them at 6 or 7 wins.
I think I go 7-5.
Yeah.
They can't win on the road, man. They can't, and they got, if they beat A&M, then we'll have a talk. You know, we'll come back and discuss it. But that's the make or break game for them this year.
Agreed.
Because they're going to lose to LSU. If they knock off LSU, they're having a party. So
For sure.
yeah, one more kind of middle of the road SEC team, and then we get to the big top dogs coming in. We've got the Ole Miss Rebels, 7.5 projected win total. Lane Kiffin, a guy that will go for it on 4th and 90. I believe that with my chest. Look, they open. Let's see.
That's interesting.
Mercer, Mercer and Tulane. I'm not giving them Tulane.
I'm not. I was about to say that might be a tough one.
No.
That's going to be a tough one for them. At Tulane.
Wow.
They could drop that game.
Man.
Week 2's fun, guys. We got Bama,
Yeah.
Texas. We got that. I'm hype.
But give Tulane a night game. Do it.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
give it to them. Prime time. They got Georgia Tech at home, but they go to Bama. They go to Georgia. They go to Auburn. They go to Miss State.
Tough.
I don't know. It's tough. It's the same conversation. Will they go 7-5 or 8-4? That's where I'm at in my head right now.
That's fair.
They have to win a big game. I do think they
Look.
go win in Jordan Hare. I think they win that game.
I think we've entered the point. 2020's SEC, you're only as good as your quarterback.
Yep.
And Lane Kiffin went out and recruited about 50 of them that could start. They got Walker Howard, they got Jackson Dart, they got Spencer Sanders. If one of those guys doesn't assert themselves and become an alpha, they're in deep trouble. But I'm going to bet that one of those guys is going to walk away as the alpha, the true dog, and lead them to, 8-9 wins. Looking at their schedule, I think at Tulane, that could be a very catastrophic loss. but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Tulane, kind of riding high right now after beating USC. So you really never know. But that trip to Athens, I just saw that trip to Athens, man. Oh, late in the year.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. Yeah, I think 8-4, probably 9-3 their ceiling.
Again, this is a team I have at like 7-5, 8-4, literally. I lean 7-5 right now, but you're right. They do have a bunch of QBs in there. They could win one of those big games. Like A&M at home would be huge for them if they win the Egg Bowl too. I could go over 8-4. I think it's the best they're going though. I think they lose to Bama and Georgia and LSU. So 9-3 is the best they could go, I guess technically, but who knows? Brandon, how you
I'm
feel?
liking 8-4. I mean, I agree with y'all. Very interesting schedule here. A lot of I'm excited about that Tulane one. I think that'll be a real fun one. Like you said, a fun week too. Looking forward to that. I think I like them at 8-4.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, just another thing, like I'm looking at these other two SEC West schools we just talked about, Arkansas and A&M. I wouldn't say with any confidence that A&M or Arkansas are better than Ole Miss.
No.
Fair.
That's just my
Very
that's
fair.
just my opinion. I think Ole Miss is more talented.
Very fair point. Yeah. Then yeah, let's do it. Over. All right. So moving on, we are now in like the top 4 SEC teams heading into the 2023 season. First up, we've got the LSU Tigers, the previous, or should I say, the reigning SEC West champs. Crazy to say that out loud. LSU projected win total 9-5. Look, that 10 wins for LSU with the schedule they pull is crazy to me. I comfortably have them at 9-3. I mean, Florida State, literally, that makes or break this. That makes or break this for me. Like, that's going to be a massive, massive game to start the season. I'm going to kick it over to you, Noah. How are you feeling about the Tigers this year?
Yeah, I agree with you that that Florida State game is definitely I wouldn't say season defining because it is so early, but I definitely think it either kind of gives you your mojo going into the meat of the SEC schedule, or it kind of deflates you. But granted, after Florida State, you kind of have sort of a ramp up. I mean, you got Grambling and then at Mississippi State. Looking at the schedule out of conference, I mean, you got Georgia State, Army, and Grambling, and Florida State. Aside from Florida State, it's a week out of conference. So I think honestly, I've been high on LSU probably for the past 2 years. I mean, obviously, everyone kind of clowned them for the embarrassing. They lost that game, right?
Which one?
Last year, Florida State, they lost, right?
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
No, LSU lost the game. Florida State, yeah, won. Florida State won on some wildness at the end, because that's how LSU had like 3 or 4 losses going into this.
Right. Obviously, they in that Florida State game, they kind of stage 14-point comeback in the fourth quarter just to blow it on a missed extra point. I think they're kind of still reeling from that. Honestly, they made the SEC title game, but still they don't feel like they're taking that seriously. So I think they've taken offense to 9.5 wins. And I think they win 10 games. 10-2, I think, is very reasonable for them.
Okay. I'll make a point here. So if we have them at 10-2 and look at their schedule,
yep,
they can only lose 2 games. I think they lose at Alabama. That's 1.
Yeah, they don't beat Alabama 2 years in a row. I don't think.
They
Bama
lose
at home?
No, LSU, yeah.
Oh,
LSU goes to Alabama.
Oh, my bad.
You're good. So they lose that, I think. So that's 11-1 highest they can go. Then I look at the rest of their schedule. At Ole Miss and at Miss State, we're talking LSU here. This is not Alabama or Georgia. I think LSU splits one of those. They slip up and lose. That's 1. Florida State defines it for me. I think the Noles get it in Orlando, Florida. That's why I have them. I have LSU at 9-3. So Brandon, you're the deciding vote.
Well, you made me be the tiebreaker. I mean, for what it's worth, it's a good ass line.
Mm-hmm.
It's either 9-3 or 10-2.
Yep.
Like you said, that Florida State game, that's going to be a fun one. I think I like Jordan Travis and the Noles in that one for me. And then they're not going into Bryant Denny and beating Alabama 2 years in a row. That's not going to happen. So there's your 2 losses. It's just hard to believe they won't slip up somewhere. Like out of let's say, because they go to the Swamp, they go to Kyle Field, and then they go they're at wait no. I got
They
that.
host those two.
Oh, it's okay.
They're
Okay,
your-
that's a little better, but
But
still, you
still,
know, they have Florida, A&M, Arkansas, Ole Miss. I don't know. I feel like they could slip up one of those games.
yeah, that's the thing. They do it damn near every year. So that's why I have them 9-3. You go 9-3 or 10-2, Brandon?
I think I like 9-3. I think they
Okay.
slip up somewhere, but
All right.
I could easily see 10-2. I
Okay.
again think this is a good line.
I think 8-4 is not out of the question here.
That's a good point. I think you've kind of convinced me because I just thought about a text I sent last Wednesday. Let me just read this. This kind of destroys my entire argument for the over. I said this past Wednesday, 10:30 p.m. I still can't believe LSU blew any chance at making the playoff with 2 losses by losing to a 3-win A&M team the week before the SEC championship.
It's a good point.
I honestly I forgot that game
is a
until
smart
right now.
guy.
Yep.
Past me is a smart guy. So yeah, you kind of convinced me there. I'll go under.
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe they don't drop one that they shouldn't.
That's
Like you're
fair.
saying.
They got to prove
Maybe
it.
2. Yeah. You know, it's the SEC. You never know.
And it's Brian Kelly. Like, come
And
on.
yeah. Yeah. And injuries. We forget injuries.
It's true.
Moving on, we've got the hot topic team of the year, the team the media wants to win it all, baby. The 2023 SEC win total for the Tennessee Volunteers, 9.5. Tennessee just came off their best season in a long time, winning the Orange Bowl. Sorry.
Let's hear it, Chris.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
All right. So Tennessee, the best they can go is 10-2. All right. The best they can go is 10-2. They are going to get rolled by Alabama. Rolled. I mean, the amount of trash. I mean, they acted like they won the national title when they beat Alabama. Saban might be on the way out in terms of coaching. He's not holding up with that shit. They're gonna hang 50 on him. All right. They're gonna whoop that ass in Tuscaloosa. Book it. That's a loss. Georgia, granted, it's in Neyland Stadium. Georgia's got their number lately. Georgia's beating them. Defense wins ball games. Georgia has defense. Tennessee doesn't. That's 10-2. Now I'm looking at the rest of their schedule. I'm not going to lie. It's fairly weak, but I see them splitting. Call me crazy. And you can in the comments. They split Texas A&M and at Florida. Going to the Swamp early is hard. It's hard. We've seen Alabama go there when they're top dog and damn near lose. I don't care how bad Florida is. The place will be rocking. That's a big rivalry. And then A&M, you can't count them out. I know it's in Neyland. I think they split those. I think they go 9-3. Still a really good season for them. You have to look at the recent records. 9-3 is a win for Tennessee. I have them in 9-3 under. Call me crazy. I want to hear it. It's so easy to sit here and say, oh, they're only going to lose 2 games. Look what they did last year. They were in position to make the college football playoff. They shit the bed and let South Carolina hang 60 on them. Just saying. Yep. It's a fact. With Hendon Hooker, mind you. With Heisman Trophy winner Hendon Hooker at the time. That's all I'm saying.
They lost.
He had the trophy in his hands.
Oh, man. Brandon, let's hear it.
I agree with you. I mean, I think they're dropping. Obviously, I think their 2 for sure losses are at Alabama. And I think, Georgia. I don't think they'd be either of them. And then looking at the rest of it, I find it hard to believe they don't drop another game somewhere. I mean, I don't think you're crazy for saying at the Swamp. I don't think Florida's going to have a great season next year, but it's still a pretty hostile environment. I mean, shit. I mean, watch out when they go play Kentucky at Kroger Field. Call me crazy. I don't know. I think
Spencer Rattler had their number last year. He could roll up and throw for 500 again.
I think they're dropping another one. Personally, I could see 9-3.
Yep. People want to beat Tennessee badly right now because of the way they're walking around. So they think they're the top dog in the East. So the Georgia game has the hype, but Tennessee's looking ahead. They're going to be caught looking ahead at least once. I promise you. They almost lost a few games that were close last year. Tennessee 9-3 at best. If they go 8-4, don't get mad at me. I'm not the one out here saying Joe Milton's Hendon Hooker. He's not. Some people are.
I got something to say about that.
Let's hear it.
All right. I'm looking at their schedule right now, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, Virginia, week 1. I'll give you it's a neutral site game, so you never know. I'll give you that one. I'll give you Austin P week 2. Then, still early season, you go to the Swamp. Granted, Florida will have traveled to Utah to face the mighty Utah student section and have had a tune-up game with McNeese at home. So that is still, the season is still very much alive for Florida there. So that's a very, very early season defining game. So let's say, fine, they escape with a win. Who cares? Then you have to go home and face UTSA, who, mind you, finished first in their division last year, went 11-3. And the past 2 years, I'm pretty sure they've been ranked in the final college football playoff rankings. They're no slouch. No slouch.
Correct.
So you never know. I mean, you saw them. I mean, granted, it's a different team. You saw Tennessee lose to Georgia State at home a few years ago. You never know. Stuff happens every day in college football. I mean, yeah. Moving on, South Carolina. We saw what happened last year. Spencer Rattler torched them. So I think a lot of their schedule is very kind of up in the air.
A&M's a trap game.
A&M after a bye, that is the perfect look ahead spot for them because Bama's out for blood. And honestly, I think right here at this point, following the Bama game, regardless of result, I think Joe Milton will have been benched. I don't see it. He has a cannon. I will say he is a cannon. The man has put zero touch on the ball whatsoever in all of the college football I've watched him play. I think that 5-star freshman Nico will be starting by the time they go to Kentucky in week 9.
There you have it, folks.
There's your hot take.
Yeah. Yep. There you have it.
I honestly would say under. I think Tennessee goes 8-4. That's what I'm saying.
9-3, 8-4. And I think the world wants them to be back so bad. Look, they lost their big guys and they have not proven they can reload. If they prove they can reload going into 2024, we'll have a different conversation. But right now, I don't see it. They lost Tillman, they lost Hyatt, they lost Hendon Hooker. That was their trio. So yeah, we'll see. They're going 9-3. Under. Moving on, we've got the Alabama Crimson Tide, the mighty Crimson Tide. This is I wouldn't say career defining, but it's definitely in the later years of Nick Saban. Like this is like a make or break year. Like I think if he does not, if he doesn't win the West, or even the SEC or make a playoff, I think he might retire. Like this, I'm serious. This is going to be a historic year for them. All right, let's look at their schedule. 12-0. I have them at 12-0. And I know I like it's easy to joke, but Middle Tennessee, Texas at home, at USF, Ole Miss at home, at Miss State, at A&M. They have A&M's number. Arkansas at home, Tennessee at home, by LSU at home, at Kentucky, Chattanooga, at Auburn. I see them 12-0 for real this time, going SEC championship. Worst case scenario, they lose a game, 11-1, but they just have too much talent. And this is a more favorable Bama schedule. Not saying it's easy, but I just the one to circle is A&M for me. Tennessee, I'm literally not concerned about that. If it would nightmare scenario would be they lose to Tennessee at Texas A&M. Because frankly, I'm not scared of Auburn if I'm them. That could be close, but they're getting out of there with the win. I have them at worst nightmare scenario 10-2, which would be the under. But I have them again 11-1, 12-0. That's just me. And Brandon, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think I'm probably pretty close to being on the same train of thought. I think they probably drop one game at most. They go to Kyle Field. A&M's had their number. They're going to need A&M's going to need a defining win in their season. I could see maybe slipping up there. Other than that, I mean, they have a pretty favorable, schedule. Most of their tougher games, you'd say, are at home, including Tennessee and LSU. They go to Jordan-Hare. I don't really foresee them having many problems there. They're going to go to Kentucky and probably beat the shit out of them. I don't know. I think Texas might be an interesting one with what the Longhorns have going on this offseason. But I think realistically, they might drop one. But I think I like the over for Alabama. It's hard to sit here and say and take the under for an Nick Saban coached Alabama team. Personally,
I mean, you look at last year; they went 10-2. It took a lot for them to lose those two games. The 2-point conversion at the very end of the game, the Tennessee, the fluke, like the way that ended. They won all those other games. Granted, they were close. It doesn't matter how ugly a win is. I could see some ugly wins on the schedule, but they will get 11 wins, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Noah, how you feel?
I think I agree with that. I'm looking at their schedule. I mean, Texas is a very early game that will define their season. They got a narrow win in their visit to Austin last season. I think while this Alabama roster, they lost the first overall pick in Bryce Young, they're going to be weaker in terms of offensive output. But at the same time, it's like Nick Saban has done this for so long. He knows what it takes to win and win consistently. And I think no matter what, I think Alabama is better than any of the other Western SEC West teams. So I think 11 wins, probably 12 is what they're looking at. Just they have the greatest college football coach of all time. You're
I
pretty
mean,
much gonna be in the SEC title game.
Mhm.
I'm looking at his. I mean, Saban's going to outcoach everyone here, and this time he outcoached. I mean, I thought he outcoached Brian Kelly last year. It just so happened to be the very end. But I mean, he's got LSU and Tennessee at home. He's got Arkansas at home. At Auburn does not matter. That he's gonna make a example out of them. I really do believe that this is like Nick Saban is having like a LeBron 2020 year where he's like, hey, I still got it, kids, and he's gonna come out and he's gonna show up and probably go 12-0, make the SEC championship, and make a playoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my only question at this point is quarterback. Because I don't think Milrow is that guy, personally.
They got the kid from Notre Dame. I
Yeah.
think.
I mean, look,
he
at the end of the
threw a pick
day, they
six
have
against Marshall. Like that kid. I mean, I don't know.
I
He's
don't know.
not that good.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure they have some 5-star ready to swoop in if they really need them.
At the end of the day, they got a staple of talent running back, O line. They're going to be just like Georgia, who we're going to talk about in a second. They got a great defense, great coaching. They're going to win close games, but they're going to win them. They got experience at head coach, which matters most to me. But then there was only one two-time reigning national champs, the Georgia Bulldogs. Projected win total 11.5. That half is because of the Tennessee game, we all know. Look, Georgia has a potential to make history here, right? I don't think a team has ever had 3 consecutive 12-0 regular seasons, have they?
I'm
Not
not
to my
sure.
knowledge.
Because that would be the case. If Georgia goes 12-0, would that be the 3rd straight regular season undefeated?
Yeah,
It would.
because they didn't
It
lose
would.
in
Look.
21 until the SEC championship.
I won't lie, that's scary. And I will be honest, Georgia will lose another game again, people. They will. We have to come to terms with it as Georgia fans. It's no secret we
I don't
are.
know when.
It's going to happen, whether that is in the regular season or not. Even the great Clemson teams that won all those championships, they slipped up and lost a game. Even Alabama, those great teams, Ole Miss got their number, but they still go on to win the Natty. 11, saying they're going to go 12-0 3 years in a row is hard, okay? I just think they're built different, guys. I just do. And call it bias, call it brainwash. If you look at their schedule, the only game they could really feasibly lose is at Neyland Stadium to Tennessee.
That's it.
That's
Yep.
and that's just facts. They beat Missouri last year. They did not lose. That they could have a scare like that. I think they will. They'll have a scare where it's like, oh my God, what are they doing? It's a low scoring, iffy game. But Georgia's going to beat UT Martin, Ball State, South Carolina at home, UAB. At Auburn's a win. Kentucky at Vandy's a win. They're going to beat Florida. They're going to beat Missouri. They're going to beat Ole Miss at home. They're going to beat Georgia Tech. The only game on the schedule is at Tennessee, and I think they win a close one, 12-0.
I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. It's been in the media all off season about how easy Georgia's schedule is. Georgia's schedule is for this upcoming season mainly because the Oklahoma game got nixed because they're joining the SEC. You know, what can you do about it? But very favorable, obviously. You know, I think it's easy to say that they go 12-0 here. Like you said, Chris, that does play into account that I didn't even realize that this will be the 3rd straight 12-0 season, which is pretty crazy to think about. But I mean, unless they slip up at Tennessee, I really don't see anything happening outside of that.
Because here's a fact, Brandon and Noah. A fact is they will not lose a game in Sanford Stadium. They will not.
No.
That place has become really an impenetrable fortress, if you will.
A top 5 environment in the SEC.
Yep.
Oh man,
Brandon Walker.
the swamp is
The
not a better
shittiest
environment.
opinion on the internet in I don't know how long. My gosh.
Yeah. So if you look at their road games, right? They're winning every home game. You look at their road games at Auburn, they've had their number there lately. Could be a
That's
close
our
one.
scare. That's
That
our
could be a
scare.
scare. I can see
That's our
that being a
scare.
First
scare.
road game for the starter, whoever it may be, looking like Carson Beck. At Vandy's a
Yep.
win. That's a neuro neutral game. Is that what they call it or something? It's like your whole
Yeah.
fan base fills the stadium.
Yeah.
At Georgia Tech, that's Georgia. That's Georgia's practice field. So you've got Tennessee and Auburn. Those are the
Athens
two I
East.
guess they could lose.
Yeah.
They own Auburn there. It'll be loud, but Georgia will win. Tennessee's the one. That's all, guys. It's all she wrote.
Boys, I think this is the year people start to kind of start to accept that the guard has changed.
Yeah.
There's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Kirby Smart.
I think you're right.
I
That's
agree.
all she wrote. Reloads every year. I mean, Georgia's going to win the East. Georgia's could lose the SEC championship if they play Alabama. It'd be a good game, but the Georgia and Alabama will both be in the playoff this year. I am confident in that. Over for Georgia's win total.
Yep.
And that's pretty much all she wrote for this 2023 SEC win totals prediction. We will have in-depth videos, probably breaking down the schedules of these teams in like, say, July, August. We'll go through and probably do every team, honestly, go through their schedule and do our predictions. That'd be fun. Maybe we fill them out before we hop on and then we each kind of compare, something like that. But definitely stay tuned. We're only a few months out from like SEC media days and all that stuff. So we'll have more coverage of that as we get closer. But just to recap, Georgia over 11.5, Alabama over 10.5 wins, Tennessee under 9.5 wins, LSU under 9.5 wins, Ole Miss over 7.5 wins, Arkansas under 7.5 wins, A&M under 7.5 wins, South Carolina over 6.5 wins, Kentucky over 6.5 wins, Mizzou under 6.5, Miss State over 6.5, Auburn over 6.5, Florida under 5.5, and Vandy over 3.5. That's all she wrote. 2023 SEC win totals predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Drop down below who's winning the SEC. What teams do you have going over or under? Let us know all that and more in the comments down below. Follow us on all our social medias linked down below. We're going to be posting a lot more clips over there on TikTok and Instagram. Stay tuned for more streams, more videos, all that good stuff. Appreciate the support lately. You guys have been killing it. It really does mean a lot to all three of us. It's definitely inspired us to keep getting after it over here.
Absolutely.
That's all she wrote. We will see you guys in the next video.